Gotta do the dishes. Gotta do the dishes.
Hey, thanks for coming tonight. It's good to see you. Grab yourself a drink, pull up a chair. I've got a story to tell you. Cheers, mate. Here we go. Welcome back to Ton's Kitchen After Hours. Season 2, Heartless High, Bit 9, Outcast Betrayal. One of the outcasts was an older bloke that I looked up to, Mick de Bone. He lived in a council flat with his mother, around the corner from my mate Darryl, so I'd seen him around before we met at Heartless High. Looking back now, he was a spitting image of Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. He even walked the same way, like he'd spent hours in front of a mirror practicing. Most mornings I'd hook up with the outcasts at the bike sheds and talk about what mischief we'd been up to. Mick and Paula Mac would usually be there, with Sean and Sav hanging around in the background. I got on better with Mick and Paula, maybe because my brothers were older than me. For some reason, I rarely saw Mick and Paula around lunchtime. Maybe they were at some other place playing hide the sausage. There was a special needs girl who'd turn up most days trying to bum cigarettes. The Sav, being his charming self, would offer her a smoke if she'd let him fool around with her. I witnessed the first time, and it wasn't a pretty sight. But I guess in his mind it was better than nothing. There was this chubby girl who'd wag on Wednesday afternoons with me to avoid playing sports. We both hated the shit stirring that went on in the change rooms, so we'd work up a sweat at my place together instead. This went on for over a year. She was nothing special, but I appreciated getting in some practice. Me, the Sav, and Sean would roam around the streets most nights, drinking cheap wine when we could afford it. The Sav would always pester me with, "Get your end in, get a friend in." By this time I was getting a bit tired of the chubby girl and decided to invite her to have a drink with us. We ended up drinking behind Max Wright Motors on the Great Western Highway at Kingswood. The road behind there was a dead end, so no one bothered us. At the end of the road was an overgrown vacant lot. I took Chubby into there and got in a little more practice. When I was done, I called out to the boys, "Okay, who's going next?" She looked at me in horror, and without hesitation, she punched me in the balls and ran off in tears. The Sav tried to stop her, and she knocked him arse over tit. Needless to say, my Wednesday private sports partner quit the team. I guess her knocking Sav for a 6 was a humiliation he couldn't let go of. So one night he suggested we walk past her place. He pulled out a pocket knife and stabbed the tyres of the car in her driveway. And guess who got the blame for it? Apparently being a dickhead automatically made me the prime suspect. Despite me showing my misguided loyalty to my fellow outcasts, the same loyalty wasn't repaid by all of them. One day we were all in the hall with our school bags for some reason. The Sav went for a piss. When he came back, he started rummaging through his bag like a madman. Then he glared at me and said, "Give it back." I said, "What the fuck are you talking about?" "Me pencil case," he shouted. And I said, "Fuck off, dickhead. I never touched your bag." He kept going on and on about it, and finally he told a teacher I'd stolen it. The teacher asked me to open my bag, and I said, no way, I never touched any of his shit. So off we went to the principal's office. He asked me to open my bag, and I refused. He said he'd call the cops, and I replied, do what you want. After several more threats, he called the cops. When they turned up, they said if I refused to show them the contents of my bag, they'd charge me with hindering a police investigation. I kicked my bag across the room and said, knock yourself out. They found nothing, and that was that. But not in my mind. By lunchtime, my fuse had been lit, and I was about to explode. All the years of rusty and plug shit stirring and torment, all the grief at home, and now this little prick accusing me of being a thief. The powder keg inside me exploded. I grabbed the Sav around the throat and headbutted him up and down the hockey field for everyone to see, till he was a bloody crying mess. I threw him to the ground and told him he was cast out of the Outcasts. And we never spoke again. The hockey guys were watching the whole thing from their hill. They didn't lob their balls in our direction again after that. All the time this was happening, Mr. Johnson, the heavily tattooed math master, was watching from the master's room window, like it was a pay-per-view event. When the bell rang, he called me to go to the master's room. When I got there, he told me he had heard about the police search, and he understood how I felt. But brawling wasn't the best way to deal with it. I was sure he was going to give me the cane that day, but my only punishment was to be moved to his mathematics class. The Sav tried to stay in our group, but after I told Mick he'd try to have me arrested, Mick told him to piss off and banned him from the bike sheds. The first thing I noticed when I walked into Jono's classroom was that most of the members were also misfits. Second thing was how well they were behaved. Jono, as he was affectionately known as, was firm but fair, and his students respected him. We seemed to share a silent, mutual respect for each other. Maybe he remembered my misfit brothers that all the other teachers hated. I think he saw something different in me and decided to give me a chance. We never talked about the headbutt day. No speeches, no lectures, just a silent nod between us when I walked into his classroom. I learnt more in that room than anywhere else in that school. I recently heard that Jono had passed away. I never told him, but I wish I had have said, thanks Jono, you made a difference. All right, that's it for tonight in Ton's Kitchen After Hours. Thanks for dropping by and keeping me company. If you want to hear more stories from my weird old past, make sure to follow the podcast and come back for the next episode. I'll leave the light on for you. Until then, take care and good night.
Gotta do the dishes. Gotta do the dishes before I go home.